Good afternoon, everybody. So, as Mark said, my name is Becky Thorne. I'm the product manager here at Pearson for Applied Science and Sustainability. And today I'm joined by Esther. So, Esther, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm the subject advisor for health and social care and childcare, and I will also now be the subject advisor for medical science as well. So that's very exciting. So if you've got any questions, just drop me an email.
Thanks very much, Esther. So this afternoon, we're going to be running through the latest updates with particular reference to the medical science or the applied human biology sector. If I can ask, we will have the chat box available to you, but if I could just ask if you just wait until I finish the slide deck before you start to ask questions. It's just because I may well answer your question as we go through the presentation. We do have time at the end, hopefully, to answer any of those questions that haven't been detailed through the slide deck. But also Esther will also be here to answer questions should they arise at various points in the slide deck. So in terms of what we're going to look at this afternoon, so we'll look at the timeline so far and the context of the level 3 reform. We'll then look through some of the major outcomes of the rapid review that's just happened. We'll look at the implication of those outcomes on the funding of the qualifications, both with direct reference to medical science, but also the wider science sector. We'll then look through the impact that may have on how you may plan your curriculum. We'll look at the associated resources and support available for both current qualifications and also new qualifications. We'll then take a brief look at level 2 and the impact on level 2 science qualifications. And then we'll run through some of the useful links and the next steps. Just to say, you will get a version of this slide deck shortly after today's session that will have all of the links contained within it. So please don't feel you have to sort of write everything down. You will get a copy of this information shortly after this presentation this afternoon. So first of all, if we look at the context of where we are, so for those of you that maybe haven't been able to follow all of the various steps in the level 3 reform, so in 2021, it was announced that there was going to be a level 3 and below reform, and that reform would result in a landscape at level 3, which was either academic or technical pathways. The academic pathway, the main bulk of that would be A-levels, and then the technical pathway, the main bulk of that would come from T-levels. In 2022, we saw the criteria that was published for those qualifications in the new landscape. And in cycle 1, the subject areas and the sizes of the qualifications that we could develop was announced. Later on in 2023, we had the opportunity for cycle 1 submissions. So for level 3, that was in the July, and in level 2, that was in the November. So we were able to submit those qualifications that would feature in the new qualification landscape post-reform. And in 2024, we did have our level 3 qualifications in cycle 1 approved for first teach in September for level 3, but we also did have a general election, and as a result, we did have cycle 2, level 3, and level 2 submissions paused that were due to happen in June, and in its place, effectively, we had a rapid review that was called, and as a result, in December, we did get the outcome of that rapid review being announced. And the idea behind this rapid review in 2024 was that it would be a focused review of post-16 qualifications at level 3 and below. And it would really consider where funding should be or shouldn't be removed in qualifications that were due to be defunded this year. So it particularly focused around qualifications that appeared to overlap with T-levels, and also particularly focused on cycle 1 qualifications that weren't approved for funding, either as an AAQ or a technical qualification. The outcome of that review was published in December 2024, so just a few weeks ago. So in terms of what that meant and what it means to you, there are a few key outcomes that we need to make you aware of because it may impact your curriculum moving forward. So as planned and as per the timeline, AAQs and technical qualifications in level 3 cycle 1 subjects, so that is medical science and applied science, they will continue to be first teach September 2025. So what that means is that medical science AAQ will be available for first teach September 2025. So that is this September, as per the original level 3 reform timeline. In addition to that, the BTEC National RQF qualification, so the Applied Human Biology qualification at 360 guided learning hours, will remain defunded from this July. So the reason for that is that there is a replacement, and the replacement is in the form of the medical science qualification. So where we have RQF qualifications of certificate or extended certificate size, they will be defunded if they are in cycle 1 of the level 3 reform as planned and as part of the timeline. And there will be replacement AAQs available in this space where they have been developed. So that's as was in the level 3 reform. Perhaps one of the biggest changes around the outcome of the rapid review is that according to the initial criteria for the level 3 reform, the package available to learners was very much 1 AAQ and 2 A-levels as a study program moving forward. Now that study program combination is still available moving forward, but the difference is now centres can choose which study programs are right for their particular learners. So they do not have to do 2 A-levels alongside an AAQ. It is possible to do more than 1 AAQ as part of a full-time level 3 learner package. And I'll talk more about that in a later slide. It's important to say that because the rapid review considered each sector individually dependent on subject, that timelines may be different for different subject areas. And each subject area has their own funding outcome for specific qualifications. So with that in mind, things you hear today are directly related to science qualifications. If you happen to attend perhaps the business training event, network event that's happening in a couple of weeks' time, you may hear different dates and different timelines. The reason for that is because different subjects may be in different cycles, but also different qualifications may have slightly different timelines based on their size. So everything I say to you today is directly referencing the medical science qualification and the science sector, and therefore may be slightly different if you're attending further events down the line. Level 2 cycle 1 will continue as the original timeline, and so those new qualifications will be available from September 2025. And again, I'll talk more about that a little bit later. So they're the key things that were the key outcomes from the rapid review in December. So what does that mean for the science sector? Well, there are a few key changes as a result of that rapid review. So this is the list of qualifications that we have in the science sector for the BTEC National suite of qualifications. And the ones that we're going to particularly focus on today for the applied human biology and medical science area are that the applied human biology certificate sized qualification and the applied human biology extended certificate sized qualification, so that's the 180 and the 360 qualifications, are funded for 24-25, so that's this current academic year, for new registrations. However, in September 2025, so that's this September coming, next academic year, the applied human biology qualifications will no longer be funded for new registrations. Those new learners wanting to undertake a qualification in that subject area will need to transition onto the medical science AAQ, the extended certificate, the 360 size. So this will become available for first teach in September 2025. So this effectively replaces the applied human biology qualification. Alongside that, one point to note is that the applied psychology originally had a last funding date of 2024-2025. So the applied psychology, this would have been the last year for new learners to register on that qualification. That qualification has seen its funding extended by one academic year as a result of the rapid review. So the applied psychology certificate and extended certificate will now be available for new registrations this September. So that is a change to the original timeline that we saw before. There are a couple more changes. They relate to larger sized applied science qualifications. If you are looking for specific information about applied science qualification, please do register for our event next Tuesday, where we'll go into more detail about those qualifications. But that is the key information regarding applied human biology. And it is really that switch between applied human biology over to the medical science qualification moving forward. So how does that affect your curriculum planning moving forward? Well, there's a few key things to consider between the transitionary period between applied human biology and the medical science qualification, the AAQ, that's coming in. So when looking at the 2025-2026 curriculum, we need to consider some key things to make sure that we have a full progression of qualification available. So any students that are registered this academic year, so 2024 to 2025, on a 180 sized qualification in applied human biology, so that's the certificate size, will need to be transferred or topped up to the 360 guided learning hour program before the end of the funding, so before the end of this academic year. And I'll talk to you more about what that means in just a second. But those learners on 180 programs, if that is not the final completion qualification they are aiming for, they are the learners that will need to be moved onto the larger program before the funding runs out for that applied human biology qualification. If you genuinely normally register learners on a 360 guided learning hour program, now this isn't so directly relevant for the medical science or the applied human biology, but if you were to register on a 360 extended certificate and then top up to a larger sized qualification, you need to make sure that that larger sized qualification will be retained in 2026, 2027. So we just need to make sure where there is movement between two different sizes of qualifications, that both qualifications remain available for the year of completion of your learners. So if you have a learner that is on a 180 certificate sized qualification in applied human biology this academic year, so 2024 to 2025, you have two options as to how you can make sure that they claim the right sized qualification before the funding runs out. The first one is to make sure that they are transferred. So if that learner is halfway through their qualification and they haven't certified for the qualification that they want to achieve, you can transfer them across to the larger sized qualification, and there will be no additional admin fee for that. You may just be required to pay the difference in fee between the smaller qualification and the larger qualification. So you can transfer learners from here onwards to make sure that they are at the correct size qualification of what they want to complete at the time they're going to certify. The other way you can do it is if you've had learners that have already certified at the certificate size, the 180 sized qualification, you can top them up. But again, those top ups will need to be registered before the funding runs out for these qualifications. So you will not be able to top up to a 360 in applied human biology after the 31st of July 2025. So if you've got a learner that's doing a 180 this academic year and they want to do the 360 next academic year, you need to make sure that they're registered on the 360 program before the end of July. Otherwise, they won't be able to top up to the larger sized qualification due to the funding restrictions. If you have learners looking to do a 360 sized qualification from this September, they will not be registering on the applied human biology. They will be registering on the medical science AAQ qualification moving forward. So hopefully that helps to sort of give you an idea of how it may impact sort of the curriculum and when you need to register learners. The other big change and how it may impact your curriculum is the idea of study programs. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, one of the key outcomes of the rapid review was that the idea that only 2 A-levels and 1 AAQ as a combination was allowed, that idea has been changed. And now there is more flexibility around programs that can be available for students to take from September onwards. So if you have a learner looking to take the medical science extended certificate, they are able to combine that with any level 3 qualification, or indeed level 2, but any level 3 qualification that they see as an appropriate qualification for their individual progression route. So for example, you may have a learner on program 1 that is taking the medical science extended certificate, and they are combining that with 2 A-levels as the original guidance in the original landscape, and the way that these qualifications were designed to be taken. That is still an entirely appropriate program package for certain learners. But in addition to that, you may have a different learner who wants to undertake the medical science AAQ from September, but they want to combine that with an AAQ in health and social care. So again, that's a new qualification from this September. And they might want to take that alongside A-level psychology. That is also a valid combination. So that's a change to the previous criteria that we had, and that is as a result of the rapid review. So now that is a legitimate qualification package that somebody is able to do. Alternatively, you could have a learner who it's better for them to take 3 vocationally based qualifications. So you may have a learner that chooses to take the medical science extended certificate AAQ in September. They may want to combine that with the BTEC National in Applied Psychology. Now, bear in mind, that would only be for this September because we've only got 1 year left on that qualification as it stands within the funding grounds. And they may also want to combine that with the current RQF extended certificate in sport and exercise science, because that is still currently funded because it hasn't gone through the level 3 reform process yet. So there are lots of different funding and qualification combinations that you can have alongside this. And that's one of the big changes to the previous criteria that we've seen. And just to say, that's not the only combinations, that's just to give you an idea as to what may happen or what a learner could do. So in terms of more specifics about the medical science qualification and how that varies to the applied human biology, well, on the screen in front of you is the pre-existing National Extended Certificate in Applied Human Biology. So that is the table on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is the alternative academic qualification in medical science. So both these qualifications are 360 guided learning hours, and you can see the unit comparison there. Just as a brief overview, so some of the major changes that have happened to the qualification is that within Unit 1, you will notice that the Unit 1 title has changed and is now Principles of Human Physiology, Anatomy and Pathology. That Unit 1 contains lots of the functional physiology content that was previously in Unit 4 as an optional unit. So lots of the human anatomy and human physiology content has been brought into Unit 1 and has become a mandatory part of the qualification. And that is due to HEI feedback, and it was something that they wanted to see as a mandatory part of a medical science qualification. The way that that unit is assessed has stayed the same, and it is still an external assessment, and it is still externally assessed through a formal examination. The examinations will take place as they currently do in January and June windows, and there'll be formal written exams as they currently are. Unit 2, Health Issues and Scientific Reporting in the Medical Science qualification, has been retained, but there has been some changes that have been made to that unit. And its comparable unit is Human Biology and Health Issues, which is Unit 3 in the current Applied Human Biology qualification. Again, it's still maintained its external assessment, but the task-based nature of that specific external assessment has been removed. And there have been some changes to the content of that unit moving forward, but the size and the way it's assessed has stayed the same. The practical unit, which is Unit 3, Practical Microbiology and Infectious Disease, a comparable unit is Unit 2 in the current Applied Human Biology qualification. That again has had some small amendments to the content and some of the practical skills required, but by and large, that has stayed relatively similar to the comparable unit in the Applied Human Biology qualification. In terms of the optional units, we do still ask for one optional unit to be completed, and that optional unit is internal. And you'll see that the majority of the optional units have been retained. Obviously, I said before, Unit 4 has been encompassed in the mandatory content, which is why it's not there as an optional unit anymore, but we still do retain the 3 optional units that were previously available in the Applied Human Biology. If you're wanting further information about specific details around what has changed in our current qualification versus our medical science qualification, we do have our transition guide, which is available on our medical science webpage, and that will give you more detail around specifically what has changed between the 2 qualifications. In addition to that, on our specification page, you'll find the specification. You will also find sample assessment materials, and you will also be able to access the PSABs, which are the internal assignments for this course. To do that, you will need an Edexcel login though. So if you don't have one of those, either approach your exams officer or you can register for an ELL login. So you should be able to do that and access those internal assignments. In terms of some of the key similarities and differences between the new AAQs and our current RQF qualifications, we do maintain our vocational approach to these qualifications. And so where possible, we do ensure practical application, and we do look to develop practical skills because they're essential skills for progression onto higher education. We do maintain our pass, merit and distinction grade profiles, and we do also have optional units that are available to try and allow learners to specialize in key areas of interest. In addition to that, we have introduced sustainability, digital and transferable skills as those skills that are mapped into all of our new AAQs moving forward, and allow the learner to identify key skills that they have learned or developed as they move through the qualification. In terms of resources and support, so moving forward, we are looking to have both bite-sized videos and on-demand training that are available for these qualifications. So throughout the spring term of 2025, we will look to provide getting ready to teach and internal assessment, both live and on-demand training. We also will look to offer bite-sized videos as to how to perform specific roles within your centre and how to utilise the Pearson set assignment briefs which accompany these qualifications. Moving through to the summer term of 2025, we'll continue with those getting ready to teach training events, but we'll also look at transitioning workshops, so moving from the current applied human biology onto the medical science qualification, and we'll look to give us specific support around delivering key units throughout the qualification, and we'll continue to deliver getting ready for both internal and external assessment training. We'll also look to add further titles around the bite-sized videos based on feedback that we receive from centre and the latest developments around the qualification as we move through towards the summer term of 2025. In terms of support, we will continue to have additional tools. So Exam Wizard and Results Plus will continue to be available for these qualifications. We will continue to have subject advisors on hand to answer questions and to help you out with specific subject related queries. We will look to have teaching and learning support available, and I'll talk more about that in a second. And we also will continue to have access to scripts as an online service moving forward, much as we do for our current qualifications, which will happen for our new AAQs as well. In terms of paid resources and the support available from paid resources, we are looking to have student books. So they will be an overview of the complete qualification, but they will also contain student activities and some forms of assessment practice. They will cover both mandatory and optional units. The teacher packs, we will also have further support for teacher resources for each of the sectors, and we'll also have sort of front of class activities, but also fact sheets, video links, quizzes, those types of things. So both the student books and the teacher packs will be available. We are looking to have those available as soon as possible in 2025 so that you can see samples of both of those. And we're looking to have those officially published around April 2025 so that you have them before the commencement of the medical science qualification. In terms of level 2 moving forward, so the level 2 reform rollout has been paused. So cycle 1 level 2 qualifications that have already been approved for funding will go ahead for First Teach September 2025. However, those qualifications in cycle 2, so science qualifications that weren't technical qualifications, they have been paused. And at the moment, we don't have a submission date for level 2 cycle 2 qualifications. So that's science qualifications moving forward. Originally, these were supposed to be First Teach September 2026. We now don't have a confirmed date for First Teach of those qualifications because, as I say, the submission of those has been paused moving forward. As soon as we have further information and further clarity around that situation, we will let you know for those level 2 qualifications. What that does mean is that the post-16 level 2 science offer that we have at the moment, so the BTEC first suite of qualifications, will remain available until such time that the new level 2 qualifications become available, and we have further detail of the submission of those qualifications. So you can still teach those qualifications at this moment in time moving forward. So just finally, there are some useful links that should give you some general information and some subject specific information. And again, you will get a copy of this slide deck after today's event. But we do have a dedicated level 3 funding guide, and we have a dedicated reform page that gives you the latest information about where we are with the reforms. So please do have a look at that, because it does give you a general overview of where we are with these qualifications. We do also have several Department for Education links that may be helpful for you. So the outcome of the rapid review is available through the DFE webpage, and also access to those qualifications that have had funding extended. So you can download all of the information about which qualifications have been extended for a further year outside of the science space, as well as in the science space, through those links. And there is also a really, really helpful FAQ page that if you do have a question, you can click on that and you can see if it's already been asked, and there may well be the answer there for you. So all of those links will come to you within the slide deck, and they're quite helpful for sort of general level 3 reform qualification. So where are we in terms of next steps? So I think the key take home message, and then I'll come on to some of your questions because I can see lots of them pouring in. The key things are medical science AAQ is going ahead and will be funded from September 2025. So that's next academic year. Those qualifications will be live and they can be delivered. Regarding cycle 2, for both level 2 and level 3, so that's any subject area that wasn't in cycle 1 of the reform, that has currently been paused, and we are waiting further information around what will happen to those qualifications moving forward and what the future landscape may look like. We do also know that the Department for Education will open a new cycle 2 for additional titles in health and social care, applied science, construction, and digital. Excuse me. We don't know any further information about what may be contained within this additional submission window at this moment in time. And as we know further information about what can be submitted in this additional submission window, we will obviously let you know. For all other sectors that haven't been considered as part of the rapid review, so anything that's not in cycle 1, qualifications will be retained as a temporary measure to ensure that there's continuum of provision. But what happens to those qualifications in the long term is something that will be considered under the curriculum and assessment review. And we expect that details around that will be provided later in the year. So we don't have any further information about the long-term prospects of any of the qualifications that fall out of those qualifications that they've considered as part of the rapid review. So essentially anything out of cycle 1. So that's kind of where we are with the information we have at this moment in time.